faith loves God more than job, retirement, ministry, writing books, building dream houses, making your first million, having your first baby. Faith says, whether He treats me tenderly or whether He gives me up to torture, I love God. Though He slay me, yet will I trust Him.
What is it about faith that shows God to be better than everything life offers? In this episode of Light and Truth, John Piper opens Hebrews 11:29-38 to examine how faith reveals the worth of God. This sermon was originally preached at Bethlehem Baptist Church on August 10th, 1997.
Having faith is not the ultimate determining factor in whether you suffer or escape. God is. Having faith, therefore, since you can escape by it and since you can die by it, having faith is not the ultimate decisive factor in whether you live or whether you die. God is. His sovereign will and wisdom and love. This is tremendously comforting to me. You may have to wrestle with it. I don't know where you're coming from theologically. I wept over these things for months, and I don't pressure anybody to make hasty jumps into the embracing of a God of sovereign love. But once you're over the hump, it's incredibly comforting. It is a great relief to me to know that there is a higher explanation for my pain than whether I measure up in faith. I tell you, that's so comforting. Because if I had to come to I went into the doctor's office about 2 months ago to have 4 biopsies on little things all over my skin that come here and here and here. And so I thought, maybe I'll die of skin cancer. That'd be gruesome. And I thought about it. I think about those things a lot. Every time I feel bad, I think about dying. And I really think about it. I really, really imagine it. And if I had to come to terms with the fact that I'm dying because I don't have faith, I don't know what I would do. Well, I'm just going to give you a pastoral warning here. In this church, while I hold any sway of influence, we're not going to treat dying people that way. We're not going to say that. Okay? Okay? You'll deal with me if you do. If you look a dying person in the face and say, you know, if you had faith, you wouldn't be dying, I'm going to be on your case. You know what we're going to say? We're going to say, Patty, trust God. Trust God. Because whether you live by faith or whether you die by faith, He'll take care of you. To live is Christ, and to die is gain. That's what we're going to say. Trust God. Have faith. So whether you live or whether you die, and you don't decide that, and I don't decide that, God will take care of you. He will do that. That's point number 3. Point number 4. The common feature in the faith that escapes suffering and the faith that endures suffering is this. Both of them involve believing that God Himself is better than what life can give you now and what death will take from you later. Let me try to shorten that down. The common defining, distinguishing element of the faith that escapes the sword or the cancer and the faith that dies by the sword or the cancer. The common element of that faith is that it considers God better than what life can give now and what death can take later. Faith says, if I've got it all, God is better. And faith says, if I lose it all, God is better. That's what faith says. If I've got it all, and most of us in this room have it all compared to the world, God is better. You better learn to say it now because you're going to lose it all. And if you haven't said it now, when you've got it all, you won't be able to say it then when you lose it all, because you will have loved it all instead of God. That's why I'm preaching this now, while you've got some time to change your theology so that you have roots that you can die by when time comes. You've got to learn to live by God if you want to die by God. The key verse here again is 35. By faith, women received back their dead by resurrection. That's the widow of Zarephath. Remember her? Little boy died, and Elisha raised him from the dead. By faith, women received back their dead by resurrection. Others were tortured, not accepting their release, in order that they might obtain a better resurrection, better than the little boys. Why was it better? The little boy had to die again. He came back and he had his life. Ray, I had my life. I have my life, and that's good. I want life. I like living. But if we don't like something more than living, we don't know God. We don't know Him. It is better than resurrection back to life, better than the Lazarus thing. In other words, faith is utterly in love with God. Faith is utterly in love with God. The Lord came down. You know, sometimes you have these little, the Germans call them Lichtungen. Little lightnings. And it's like you're walking through a wood. Trees are high, so you can't see the sky. And suddenly, you walk out into a little clearing and the light is just right down on you. That's a Lichtung. I had one of those last night about halfway along the sidewalk between the garage and the house, in which I was thinking about this text all day long. In fact, I've been thinking about it for weeks, and how hard this is and how glorious it is. And it was as though this particular point in the sermon, faith says God is everything. Just kind of, and I found myself just kind of in one of those ecstatic moments saying, I love you. 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 Oh, let me die by this love. Oh, God, let me die by this love. Don't take this away from me. You are precious beyond words. You don't have to have those kinds of extraordinary emotional moments in your life in order to love God. But you do need to make a lot of choices. Faith loves God more than job, retirement, ministry, writing books, building dream houses, making your first million, having your first baby. Faith says, whether He treats me tenderly or whether He gives me up to torture, I love God. Though He slay me, yet will I trust Him. He is my better and lasting treasure, chapter 10, verse 34. He's my reward, chapter 11, verse 6. He's the builder and maker of the city that I long for, verse 16. He's the unseen reward that I look to, verse 26. He is the treasure that outstrips and outlasts all the treasures of Egypt, verse 26 and 27. Oh, how we need to cultivate this. Those who suffer willingly and accept it, and in the midst of suffering, see God and say, I do not understand what you are doing here, but you are God and the hidden things belong to you, and faith is, I trust you. When that kind of person happens in the world, and they accept suffering and trust God and love God, they are a gift to the world. Now, you wonder, where does that come out of this text? Let me show you. It comes from verses 37 and 38. They are gifts to the world. Verse 37 in the middle start. They went about in sheepskins and goatskins, being destitute. Notice no promise of preppy blouses or cool slacks. Afflicted, ill-treated, men of whom the world was not worthy. What does that mean? There's where I get it. Men, people of whom the world was not worthy. What does that mean? The world was not worthy of these ill-treated, destitute, apparently cursed, suffering nobodies. The world wasn't worthy of them. What does that mean? It means they were gifts to the world, and the world didn't deserve the gift. You know what that means? When you're not worthy of something, you've been given it, or the attempt has been made to give it to you, and you prove to be undeserving of the gift. So I conclude that when you watch a suffering Christian who appears to be just nobody, stuck away in a hospice or a hospital or a home or an Augustana 4th floor, saying, I don't get it, it hurts, but I trust you, I love you, you're my only hope. When everything fades and is gone, you, when all around my soul gives way, then you are all my hope and stay. That person is a gift to the world. You know why? Because at that moment there is a picture and a message that's very powerful that the world needs to hear. And it isn't on television. Nowhere. Nowhere. And the message is, trust God. He is more to be desired than everything life can offer you now and everything death can take from you later. Trust Him. Love Him. Cherish Him. Savor Him. We exist as a church to cultivate hearts of death-defying passion for God. I'll say it again. My life in this pulpit, your small group, your Sunday school class, your soccer camp, your personal phone calling to a friend, your neighborhood Bible studies for kids, your ministries that I can't even begin to announce, all of them exist to help cultivate and then spread hearts of death-defying passion for God that go way beyond what this world can offer or take. And so I pray earnestly that we would be that kind of people. God is gracing the world with sufferers right now. God might even grant you to be such a gift to the world. I want the worship team to come, and I want you to take your worship folder and go to the back page again. It's almost a theme song for us at Bethlehem, and I love it being that way. The song, "It Is Well With My Soul." We sang it with heart at the beginning, and I want us to sing part of it. Perhaps now that you've heard about what some have endured and what you might have to endure, I want us to sing it with heart again. And may I invite those who came into this room as unbelievers, or maybe borderline believers, kind of wobbling and not knowing where you stand with God. If you've been confronted with a reality, and God has spoken in this service so that you feel yourself drawn to reality, to deal with the living, sovereign, wise, loving God, of whom we can say, "Oh, the depth of the riches and the wisdom and the knowledge of God. How unsearchable are His judgments and how inscrutable are His ways. Who has ever known the mind of the Lord? Or who has been His counselor? Or who has given a gift to Him that He should be repaid? For from Him and through Him and to Him are all things. To Him be glory forever and ever." If that kind of God has begun to feel and to appeal to your mind and to your heart as a winsome God that you would like to know and embrace, you know what you could do right now? You could whisper in the quietness of your heart, "There are many questions I do not have answered, God, but I bow before this reality, and I want to embrace and know You."
This is Light and Truth, God-centered preaching to help you see Christ clearly and treasure Him truly. I'm your host, Dan Kruver. Thank you for listening. On our next episode, John Piper continues our 12-part series, Risk-Taking Faith, with a sermon titled, "Run the Race Set Before You." I hope you'll join us. For more resources, visit desiringgod.org.